The storm rolled in hard over Redemption Gulch, carrying with it the scent of dry sage, scorched earth, and something older, like grief long buried. A lone rider crested the bluff under a bruised sky, his silhouette outlined by jagged streaks of lightning. He sat tall in the saddle, though one arm hung limp and blood darkened the sleeve of his duster. His hat was low over his brow, but there was no mistaking the man. Not for anyone who'd lived long enough in these parts. Bo Mercer. It had been 6 years since the town last saw him, 6 long years since the funeral with no mourners and the brother buried under stony silence. Folks whispered back then that Bo rode off with a bullet lodged near his spine and the devil riding pillion. He left without a word and came back the same way, except now he carried something heavier than a gun. His horse, a black stallion with a limp in its rear leg, clopped down the main road where sagging storefronts leaned like old drunks. The saloon's piano fell silent. Men dropped their carts. Even Widow Carrington's chickens stopped pecking. Bo passed through like a ghost retracing its own footsteps, heading straight for the Silver Spur Tavern. He dismounted without ceremony, boots slamming into the mud. His eyes swept across the townsfolk, faces he once knew now aged, wary, expectant. Nobody dared speak. He opened the saloon doors with a grunt, the hinges shrieking like they, too, resented his return. Inside, the air was thick with sawdust and unasked questions. A handful of cowhands sat stiffly at their tables. Behind the bar, old Levi stopped polishing glasses. Bo moved to the counter and dropped a silver dollar with a clink that echoed like a shot. He didn't ask for anything. From the far corner, a voice broke the silence, not with menace or suspicion but innocence. A child's voice. Trembling, raw, impossibly small in that room. "Uncle Bo, can you be my dad, just for one day?" Every head turned. A little boy stepped out from behind a pillar, clutching a battered hat twice the size of his head. Dust clung to his cheeks. His boots were too big, his coat patched at the elbows. But the eyes, blue-gray like a prairie storm, belonged to another man. A man long gone. Bo's spine stiffened. His breath caught somewhere between his chest and throat. He looked at the boy as if seeing a ghost, and in a way he was. "Jesse?" he said, voice a rasp. The boy nodded. "Mama said if anything ever happened to her, I was supposed to find you." Bo's lips parted, but no words came. His hand trembled on the bar. Levi watched silently, polishing the same spot on the counter, eyes wide as saucers. Bo crouched slowly, knees creaking like barn doors in wind. He looked Jesse over, eyes scanning for injuries, fear, lies, anything to help him make sense of this. But all he saw was truth. "Your mama's gone?" Jesse's nod was slow, deliberate. "Fever took her. Last week. I waited, but no one came." The saloon felt suddenly colder. A log in the hearth cracked, sending up a plume of sparks. "I didn't know," Bo whispered, almost to himself. "I know," Jesse said. "But you came anyway." That cut deeper than a knife. Outside, the storm built its chorus, thunder booming across the flatlands, rain beginning to pelt the saloon's roof like thrown nails. Bo stood, his frame towering but somehow fragile. Jesse reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper. Crumpled, damp at the corners. "She wrote this. Said you'd understand." Bo took it with hesitant fingers, unfolded it. The handwriting was faint, unsteady. "Bo, if you ever see this, I'm gone. Jesse has your brother's heart. He needs someone who won't run. Just one day. That's all I ask. Any." The letter shook in Bo's hand. He closed his eyes. Pain crept in, quiet but sharp, behind the sternum, along the spine. Not the kind you treat with whiskey or stitches. The kind you carry. He looked down again at Jesse, the boy's expression open but guarded, like he'd already learned not to expect much from the world. "You been on your own since she passed?" "Yes, sir. Been staying out by the windmill shack." "No one come looking for you?" Jesse shook his head. "Nobody but you." Bo felt the town's eyes pressing in, silent judgment wrapped in curiosity. He turned to them with a glare that sent heads ducking. Then he faced Jesse again and asked the only question he could manage. "You hungry?" Jesse blinked. "A little." Bo picked him up, not gently but with surprising care, and sat him on a bar stool. He pointed to Levi. "Stew. Now." Levi nodded once and disappeared into the back. "I don't got any money," Jesse mumbled. "I didn't ask you for any." They sat in silence for a while. Jesse glanced around nervously, hands folded in his lap. "My daddy, he used to talk about you," Jesse said. Bo didn't answer. "He said you were the toughest man he ever knew." Bo stared at the bar. "He was wrong." "No, he wasn't." Levi returned with a bowl of steaming stew. Jesse ate slowly, each spoonful like a victory. Bo watched him, quiet, unreadable. I never had a horse of my own, Jesse said between bites. Bo grunted. You ride. A little. I'm not great. You will be. The words came out before Bo could stop them. They surprised even him. Jesse smiled, crooked and hopeful. You got a place to stay, boy? Bo asked again. No, sir. Bo took off his hat and ran a hand through his sweat-dampened hair. He looked toward the door. Rain was falling harder now, streets turning to mud. Then I reckon you and me got a day to fill. Jesse looked up, eyes wide. Really? Bo nodded. Just for today. The boy beamed. Something deep inside Bo cracked, like ice breaking underfoot. He felt it happen. Knew there was no going back. But he didn't run. They left the saloon together. Bo lifted Jesse onto the saddle, then climbed up behind him. The stallion whinnied as if unsure about the new passenger. Jesse laughed, and the sound lit up the dark like lightning. They rode past silent onlookers who parted like water around a stone. The storm roared overhead, but the rain didn't touch them. For a moment, it was just the two of them, uncle and nephew, past and future, heading toward whatever waited beyond the edge of town. The wind carried Jesse's voice as he asked, "Do you think Daddy would be proud?" Bo didn't answer right away. He couldn't. He looked out across the desert and saw Tom's face in the storm clouds, young and grinning, holding his newborn son. I think he'd say, Bo murmured at last, it's about damn time. They rode on, the storm at their backs. Behind them, in the muddy road, fresh hoofprints mixed with the rain, and something new began to grow where nothing had for years. Dawn crept over Redemption Gulch like a slow apology. The storm had passed, but it left behind puddles in the dust and the smell of wet mesquite. Birds ventured timidly into the gray morning, their songs tentative as if testing the air. Bo Mercer stood near the barn, sleeves rolled, brushing down his horse. Jesse sat on the porch, feet swinging, a cup of lukewarm coffee clutched like a treasure. The boy hadn't stopped talking since they'd left town the night before. Every word was an attempt to understand the man beside him. Bo didn't talk much, but he listened. He didn't smile often, but he didn't need to. Jesse had enough for both of them. Bo didn't belong in houses anymore. He slept sitting up against the barn wall with a rifle by his knee and dreams that came like wolves, snarling, fast, impossible to outrun. Jesse, in contrast, had slept curled under a moth-eaten quilt on a straw mattress, breathing soft as cotton. In the dark, Bo had looked in on him once, expecting to see fear or restlessness. But Jesse slept like someone who'd found shelter after too long in the storm. They rode out just after sunup, saddling the black stallion and a borrowed chestnut mare. The world opened around them, open plains dotted with wildflowers and mesquite trees bowed by the wind. Jesse clung to the saddle horn, knuckles white. Bo kept his eyes ahead but spoke without turning. Loosen your grip. Horse can feel your nerves. I'm not nervous, Jesse said, voice wobbling. Just cold. Bo didn't call the lie. He just tossed the boy a rolled-up blanket from his saddlebag. The land stretched empty, but Bo's mind was crowded. Something had shifted when the boy looked at him across the saloon floor. Something irreversible. He wasn't sure what it meant, but he knew what it required. Movement. Keep riding, keep ahead of whatever waited behind. Jesse pointed at a distant rise. Is that where you and Daddy used to hunt coyotes? Bo glanced over. Yeah. He fell off that ridge once. Rolled down like a sack of potatoes. Jesse laughed. Did you laugh at him? Not right away. Had to make sure he wasn't dead. He always said you could shoot a hawk out the sky blindfolded. Bo grunted. That's generous. Is it true? Nope. But I never told him otherwise. Jesse let that sit for a moment, then asked, what happened the day Daddy died? Bo's grip tightened on the reins. The wind picked up, blowing grit across the trail. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled the horses to a stop beneath a crooked tree, its limbs reaching out like it was trying to remember how to be young. Bo dismounted, stretched, and looked toward the northern hills. We were supposed to meet, he said, voice low. At the Dry Creek Bridge. He wanted out, wanted to leave that life behind. Said he had you, had Annie. Said he was done with running, done with blood. Jesse slid off his saddle and stood beside Bo, eyes upturned. I got there late. Riders ambushed him. One of them was Clay Rourke. The man who killed him? Bo nodded once. Why didn't you get there in time? I was hunting Clay's trail. Lost it. By the time I doubled back, it was too late. Jesse's face didn't change, but his voice did, quieter, not accusing, just tired. You left us. Bo looked down at him. Yeah, I did. Why? The question hung there as sharp and necessary as a blade. Because I couldn't carry it, Bo said. The guilt. The failure. Your mama never said it, but I saw it in her eyes. I figured the best thing I could do was disappear. But you came back. I didn't plan to. Then why are you here? Bo studied the boy's face. So much like Tom, same stubborn jaw, same way of asking questions like they were punches you had to take. I reckon, maybe I wanted to see if I still had anything left worth saving. Jesse didn't speak, just turned to look at the horizon. I don't blame you. You should. I might. But not today. They rode on in silence for a time, the kind of silence that settles into shared space, not distance. But elsewhere, silence bred menace. A crow circled overhead, its cry sharp and unwelcome. At the edge of the territory, nestled in the scrub, 3 riders watched Bo and Jesse through a spyglass. One of them, older, with a mouth twisted in a permanent sneer, lowered the glass and spat. That's him. Mercer. Clay Rourke's eyes glinted with the satisfaction of a wolf catching scent. He looked different from the man Bo remembered. Time had carved cruelty deeper into his features, made his eyes smaller and meaner. Didn't think he'd crawl back to this town. A younger outlaw, Reeve, cracked his knuckles. Want me to take the shot? Clay shook his head. Not yet. Let him get good and comfortable first. When I kill him, I want him to know why. What about the kid? Clay grinned. Especially the kid. Back on the trail, Bo guided Jesse toward a forgotten place, the old Mercer homestead. The gate hung from one hinge. The roof sagged. Weeds grew up through the porch slats. But the bones were still there waiting. Jesse gasped when they came into view. This is where Daddy grew up? Bo nodded. Where I grew up too. They dismounted. Bo handed Jesse the reins. Water the horses. Pump still works. Jesse rushed off like it was a treasure hunt. Bo stepped onto the porch and paused. The wood groaned beneath his boots. He opened the door slowly. Dust swirled. The smell of dry cedar and faded memories struck him like a blow. Everything was smaller than he remembered. The hearth, the table, the narrow stairs. He walked through each room like a ghost retracing the corridors of his own origin. In the back he found the old chest his father carved. Inside, yellowed letters, a broken watch, and a tarnished badge. Marshal Tom Mercer. He held the badge for a long time, running a thumb across its worn star. Uncle Bo. Jesse called from outside. There's a deer out here. Real close. Bo tucked the badge into his coat and stepped outside. Jesse stood frozen, watching a young buck graze near the fence line. The deer looked up, unbothered, then bounded off into the brush. Bo came beside him. Closest thing to magic you'll find out here. Did Daddy ever take you hunting? Every chance he got. He was a better shot than me, but he never rubbed it in. I want to learn. You will. Jesse smiled, then asked, Are we staying here tonight? Just for the night. The boy looked disappointed but didn't protest. Bo ruffled his hair gently. Let's get some firewood. By nightfall, the hearth crackled with fresh logs. They shared a tin of beans and a canteen of water. Jesse curled up near the fire, eyes half closed. Uncle Bo. Yeah. Are you gonna leave again after today? Bo didn't answer at first. He sat with his back against the wall, eyes fixed on the flames. I don't know, he said finally. But I don't want to. That seemed to satisfy Jesse. His breathing slowed. Minutes later he was asleep. Bo sat in silence, fingers lightly tracing the badge in his coat pocket. For the first time in years the emptiness didn't feel so complete. But something tugged at him, an instinct honed by too many years in dangerous company. He rose quietly, stepped to the window and peered out. Nothing moved. Not the trees. Not the wind. And yet, a crow perched on the fence, watching. Behind it, just past the ridge, a faint flicker of light, like someone striking a match. Bo stepped back from the window. The boy stirred but didn't wake. Bo rested a hand on his revolver, heart already shifting gears. The past had come calling. And this time it brought hell with it. He slid the bolt on the door and doused the fire. Tomorrow wasn't promised. But tonight he'd keep the boy safe, even if it killed him. The night felt different now, heavy like the air itself knew something was coming. Bo stood at the window, one hand resting on the frame, the other gripping the revolver he hadn't drawn in weeks. Beyond the hills, the faint orange flicker had disappeared, swallowed by darkness. But it had been real. A campfire. Too far to be casual, too close to be chance. Behind him, Jesse mumbled in his sleep, twisting under the blanket near the hearth. Bo glanced back and watched the boy for a long moment. His chest rose and fell in rhythm with the quiet crackle of dying embers. Even in sleep, his fingers curled near the toy horse Bo had whittled for him hours earlier. It was a crude carving, uneven and rough, but Jesse had looked at it like it was gold. Bo turned away before the weight of it all settled too deep. He moved through the cabin silently, checking the doors, securing the windows. Every squeak of a floorboard sounded louder than it should have. He'd been hunted before, long ago, but there was something different now. He wasn't alone. Outside the wind had gone still. No owls. No insects. Just the empty silence of predators nearby. He lit a lantern in the kitchen, its wick turned low, and pulled the Winchester from above the mantel. The action clicked softly as he checked the chamber. Then he opened the back door, slipping out into the dark like a shadow breaking loose. The ground was wet, soft. He followed the path behind the barn to the ridge where the land sloped gently toward the canyon. The wind finally returned, brushing against his coat with just enough whisper to carry sound. He crouched, squinting toward the tree line, waiting. There. A shape moved between the scrub. Then another. 3 riders moving low like men who didn't want to be seen. One dismounted and knelt beside a rock, raising a spyglass. Bo's fingers tensed on the rifle, but he held his position. He wasn't ready. Not yet. He backed away, slow and deliberate, boots sinking silently into the mud. Back in the house, Jesse had stirred, sitting upright, rubbing his eyes with a groggy hand. Bo entered and immediately dropped into a crouch beside him. "We've got company," Bo said softly. Jesse's eyes widened. "Is it them?" "Don't know for sure, but I'll bet my left hand on it." "What do we do?" "We survive." He led Jesse to the crawlspace beneath the stairs. Dust clung to every corner. Old rat traps sat rusted against the wall. Jesse looked terrified, but he didn't argue. Bo handed him the revolver. "You remember what I showed you?" Jesse nodded. "Squeeze, don't jerk." "That's right. Only if you have to, you understand? Only if someone comes down them stairs and it ain't me." Bo placed a hand on the boy's head, rough and warm. "You're a Mercer. You hold fast." Jesse swallowed, then crawled into the dark. Bo covered the entrance with the loose boards and turned back to the door. He stood for a moment, taking in the quiet house, the smell of ash and wood smoke. Then he blew out the lantern and waited. The first knock was too polite. Bo stayed silent. The second was harder. Then a voice, gravelly, smug, stretched tight with cruelty. "Evenin', Mercer. Hope we ain't intrudin'." Bo stepped to the center of the room, Winchester aimed at the door. "Only thing intrudin' is your stench, Rourke." Laughter came from the other side. "Still got that smart mouth, I see. Mind if we come in?" "I do." "Well then," Clay said, and the door shattered inward. Gunfire ripped through the silence. Bo dropped behind the table as bullets splintered the wood. He fired back twice, hitting something hard. Maybe bone, maybe not. A scream confirmed at least one shot had landed. A man burst through the side window, landing hard. Bo turned and shot him clean through the shoulder. The outlaw crumpled against the wall, moaning. Another came through the back, younger, fast. He raised his revolver, but Bo was faster. The Winchester kicked, the slug catching the kid in the thigh. He dropped with a cry, gun skidding across the floor. Bo didn't wait for a third. He flipped the table for cover, reloaded quickly, sweat dripping from his brow. Gunpowder clung to the air. Shouts came from outside, Clay barking orders, the others fanning out. "I ain't here to kill you just yet, Mercer." Clay's voice rang through the open doorway. "But I will if you make me. All I want is the boy." "Then you better kill me now," Bo called back. Clay laughed. "Don't tempt me, friend. I owe you for that scar above my eye." Bo crept to the hallway, rifle aimed low. He heard a window break in the bedroom. Someone was trying to sneak around. He moved fast, stepping into the room just as the outlaw came through the window. This one was lean, desperate. He fired blindly. Bo ducked, then returned fire. The man dropped hard, crashing into the nightstand. Everything went still again. Smoke curled toward the ceiling. Bo's ears rang. He heard Jesse crying beneath the stairs, soft, muffled, terrified. Bo went to the boards and pulled them back. "You all right?" Jesse nodded, clutching the revolver so tight his knuckles looked bone white. "Stay here. Just a little longer. I want to help." "You are?" Bo said. "Just by staying alive." He closed the boards again and turned to reload. Then he heard a voice that didn't belong. "Uncle Bo." It wasn't Jesse. Bo's heart seized. He turned toward the front of the house, and there stood Clay Rourke, gun raised, a cold grin on his face. "Told you we'd meet again," Clay said. Bo didn't speak. He simply lifted the Winchester and fired. The bullet grazed Clay's arm, sending him spinning. Clay cursed and fired back. Bo dropped behind the fireplace, breath ragged, shoulder burning from a ricochet. He was hit. Not deep, but enough. Clay laughed again, limping now, holding his bleeding arm. You're slower than you used to be, he taunted. Still faster than your men. They weren't the sharpest. That's why I brought 'em. Bo stood, blood dripping from his coat, and walked into the center of the room. Clay raised his gun. They stared at each other, two broken men with nothing left but hate and memory. You killed my brother, Bo said. Tom chose death the moment he left my crew. He chose his son. That's more than you ever did. Clay's grin faded. Bo raised his gun again, hand trembling. Clay's finger twitched. 2 shots rang out, one from the Winchester, the other from Jesse's revolver. Clay's eyes widened. He staggered backward, hit twice, one in the chest, one in the leg. He looked at Bo, then past him. The boy had come out of hiding. Clay tried to lift his gun again, but Bo stepped forward and struck him across the jaw with the rifle stock. Clay dropped like dead weight. The house fell quiet. Jesse stood frozen, breathing hard, the revolver shaking in his hand. Bo rushed over, grabbed it gently. It's over. I saw him coming for you. I couldn't stay hidden. You did what you had to. Jesse looked at Clay, moaning faintly on the floor. Is he dead? No. Not yet. Bo reloaded slowly, eyes never leaving Clay. Are you gonna kill him? No, Bo said. But he won't walk out of here the same. He tied Clay's wrists with a leather belt and dragged him to the porch. The rain had started again, soft and steady. A new dawn crept up over the horizon, brushing gold across the hills. Back inside, Jesse sat at the table, staring into nothing. Bo joined him. Neither spoke for a long time. I thought you were gonna die, Jesse finally whispered. I thought I might. But you didn't. No. And I won't. Not if I can help it. Jesse nodded, eyes still glassy. Bo placed a hand over his. You did good, Jesse. Real good. I was scared. So was I. Do you think he'll come back? No. He won't. Outside, Clay groaned once and went silent. Inside, the fire was out, the gin smoke fading, but something else had taken its place. A fragile peace, the kind that doesn't shout but settles in the bones. Bo looked across the room, eyes catching on the old family photograph still hanging above the hearth. Tom, Annie, and a baby too young to know anything but love. I reckon we'll need to fix this place up, he said. Jesse looked up. For how long? Bo smiled, tired but real. We'll see. And in that quiet moment, beneath a bleeding sky, the weight of the past loosened, just enough to let hope Indiana. Dawn had returned to Redemption Gulch, not with thunder or fury this time, but with a soft gold that spilled across the land like forgiveness. The cabin sat quiet beneath the pale sky, its roof still bearing the scars of the night before. Bullet holes marked the walls, dried blood darkened the porch planks, and empty shells gleamed like scattered seeds on the floor. But inside something had changed. Bo Mercer stood at the edge of the field behind the homestead, one hand on the post of a broken fence, the other shielding his eyes from the sun. Jesse sat on a stump nearby, watching a hawk trace circles overhead. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer distance. It was understanding. Clay Rourke hadn't died. Bo had made sure of that. The outlaw lay shackled in the old root cellar, groaning through bruised ribs and a shattered sense of invincibility. Bo hadn't touched him again after the rifle strike. He didn't need to. The man's defeat wasn't just in his wounds but in the boy who had faced him, unflinching. Jesse had helped bring him down. That truth lingered heavier than iron. Bo watched the horizon, jaw set. He'd sent a rider to the county marshal that morning, an old ally who still owed him a favor. They'd come for Rourke soon, and when they did, Bo would make sure they knew the full weight of what had happened here. But the real reckoning wasn't for the law to handle. It was already unfolding in the boy's eyes. You feel different? Bo asked, finally breaking the stillness. Jesse didn't answer right away. He squinted toward the trees, thinking hard in the way children rarely get credit for. I don't feel scared, he said. Not like before. Bo nodded slowly. Fear's just another kind of weight. You carry it long enough, it teaches you things. Like how to fight? No, Bo said. Like when not to. Jesse looked down at his hands. They were stained with soot and dried blood he hadn't managed to wash off. He rubbed his palms together absently. Did you ever kill a man when you were scared? Bo let out a long breath, eyes drifting. Almost every time. Did it get easier? No. But it got quieter. Jesse thought on that, then stood brushing the dust off his pants. He looked older now, as if the night had carved new lines into his spirit. Not in a way that hardened him, but in a way that shaped him. Bo saw the trace of Tom in that stance, the way he used to lean, one shoulder low, eyes watching the world like he expected it to demand something from him. You think I did the right thing? Jesse asked. Bo looked him in the eye. You saved me. That's all the right I need. The boy's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't smile, but there was something like pride flickering beneath the surface. They spent the morning fixing the porch railing side by side. Jesse handed nails and Bo hammered them home. Neither of them said much, but every motion had weight. Every board fitted into place was a kind of vow. This place, once rotting and forgotten, was becoming something again, not just a shelter but a bond. By midday the dust on the road kicked up behind a slow-rolling wagon. Bo stepped off the porch, rifle in hand, and watched as it approached. 2 deputies, rough but clean, reined in their horses and tipped their hats. You Mercer? The first one asked, squinting up at him. Bo gave a single nod. We got your message. Marshall says you've earned more than a handshake, but I reckon we'll start there. They climbed down and followed Bo to the cellar, where Clay Rourke lay in silence, chained and sour with defeat. The outlaw didn't speak when they opened the doors. He didn't look at Jesse either. He knew. The deputies cuffed him without ceremony. One spit into the dust beside Clay's boots. Wasn't sure if you were legend or just ghost stories, Mercer, the younger one said, lifting Clay into the back of the wagon. Turns out you're both. Bo said nothing. He just watched the wheels turn and the law roll away, taking a chapter of his life with it. He stayed there long after the wagon vanished over the ridge. Inside the house, Jesse stood by the fireplace, staring up at the old photograph above the mantel. Tom's face smiled down at him, frozen in time. Annie held him in her arms, a baby swaddled tight. Bo walked in behind him, boots scuffing against the floorboards. I remember the day that was taken, Bo said, voice quiet. Tom had just built the porch swing. Annie said it was the first time she saw him proud of something that didn't come with a loaded gun. Jesse looked up at him. He looks happy. He was. Do you miss him? Every damn day. Do you think he'd be proud of you? Bo didn't answer right away. He looked at the photo like it was a mirror he couldn't quite bear to hold. I don't know, he said. But I hope so. Jesse reached into his pocket and pulled out the wooden horse, chipped at the edges but still whole. He set it gently on the mantel beside the photo. It was a small gesture, but it filled the room with something warm. It wasn't forgiveness. It was more sacred than that. Continuation. Bo placed a hand on Jesse's shoulder. The boy leaned into it just slightly, a moment of trust so simple it nearly undid the man. I think we should stay here, Jesse said suddenly. Fix it up. Maybe plant something. Bo raised an eyebrow. You got a green thumb now? No, Jesse said, but you could teach me. Bo laughed softly. It was rough, like old hinges swinging for the first time, but it was real. I could try. They went outside again, spent the afternoon gathering tools and pulling nails from old boards. The land around them buzzed with life again. Cicadas sang in the brush, a pair of hawks flew high overhead, and somewhere in the distance, a creek gurgled as if remembering how to move. The sun began to set in streaks of red and violet. They sat on the steps, dirt on their hands, sweat on their brows, and the day behind them like a long exhale. Jesse leaned back against the post, eyes half-lidded. Uncle Bo. Yeah. I'm glad you came back. Bo didn't speak right away. He looked at the boy the way he held himself now, taller somehow, steadier. I think I came back a long time ago, he said. It just took me this long to walk through the door. They sat in silence for a while. The sky deepened, stars began to prick through the velvet dark. Crickets took up the night's rhythm. The cabin behind them glowed faintly with lantern light. Jesse turned toward him one more time, voice low but steady. Would it be all right if I just called you Dad now? The world stilled. Bo looked at him. Really looked. Saw the fear behind the question, the fragile hope. He thought of all the things he wasn't. Thought of the blood on his hands, the years lost, the pain he'd buried. But then he thought of the night Jesse had stood behind him, shaking but brave, and of the boy's hands in the soil that morning, working beside his own. He reached over, gently pulled Jesse close, and rested a hand on the back of his head. Yeah, Bo said, his voice breaking but sure. Yeah, I'd like that. Jesse leaned into him, and Bo didn't fight the tears this time. He let them come, silent, salt-warm, steady as the rising moon. And somewhere out in the dark, where no one could see, the cowboy who had always stood alone, finally sat still and whole. The past hadn't vanished. The pain hadn't either. But neither had the promise that from broken things, something strong could still grow. It wasn't just a day anymore. It was a beginning.